wanna stay ahead of the curve and follow my words. How we doing? Teach, train, innovate, solve, yeah. Teach, train, innovate, solve. If you wanna be ahead of the curve, then follow my words.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome back to TTIS. Today we're diving into a strategy that is simple, powerful, and often misunderstood and maybe even misused, which is peer tutoring. I'm looking forward to sharing my knowledge and information with you tonight regarding this topic. It is one that I use intensively in my classroom to help with various things that were going on in my classroom, but mostly to improve students' engagement, to empower your students, and to strengthen your own TExES exam readiness all at the same time. So today's session is really for you. Peer tutoring is not just kids helping kids, it's research supported structure that builds academic growth and confidence and classroom community. And yes, it shows up on multiple TExES exams, including PPR 160, 293, SPED 186, and STR 293, which are just a few of the exams that we support you here at TTIS with. And with that said, I want to jump right into what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to discuss the science of student teaching themselves and teaching students. We're going to also talk about what peer tutoring is and what it's not. I'm going to connect some of the information around peer tutoring to the TExES exams that I mentioned before. And lastly, I'm going to stress how peer tutoring should be set up for it to be most effective. And then therefore, let's go ahead and jump into the science. Peer tutoring is one of the highest levels of engagement tools that we have. It supports differentiation, social learning, and mastery. And kids learn in community, just like we do. And when they explain content to one another, they strengthen their own neurological pathways. It's forward-thinking teaching because it shifts us from the teacher-centered to student-empowered classrooms. And that's exactly what the TExES distinguished level alludes to. Peer tutoring is powerful because of what happens inside of their brain. When students explain concepts, teach steps, or talk through reasoning, they activate multiple cognitive systems at once. This multi-system activation accelerates neural pathway growth. In 1949, Donald Hebb found that neurons that fire together wire together. He documented his findings in the Organization of Behavior, a neuropsychological theory. This Hebbian theory described how presynaptic cells initiate connection with postsynaptic cells and through learning and memory processes. So essentially, what does that mean for us in our profession? It means that when students retrieve information, explain it in their own words, connect it to prior knowledge, and correct the peer, this repeated activation at the same neuron circuits. So over time, those circuits strengthen, making recall faster and comprehension much deeper. And that's really what we're looking for. So as just as a thought to hang on to, peer tutoring really forces repeated activation, which accelerates the mastery more than passive listening does. And oftentimes we spend quite a lot of time with passive listening and then asking them to basically recall what we said. But in this, using this strategy, we get the opportunity to grow them in so much more of their brain development. And as promised, I said that I would talk to you about what peer tutoring is and what it's not. I want to start out with the what is not, because I want it to be clear that peer tutoring is not a time filler. Sometimes it gets a bad rap because people are using it that way. But or it's not letting stronger students do the work for others. Unfortunately, sometimes the way that we pair and the way that it's set up, it becomes that. And lastly, quiet chaos. And I think you know what I mean. But what it is structured, it's strategic, it's supported, and it's outcome driven. It's a partnership where students take turns being the teacher and the learner. That dual role increases confidence in both seats. This strategy shows up on a lot of exams because exam writers want to know, do you understand how to scaffold learning through peer interaction? And I can't skip past this topic that quickly, just say it and move on. I want to really expand it for just a moment because it's one of the quiet skills that great teachers master. When you hear people talk about peer tutoring or partner work, it's not about letting students teach themselves solely. It's really about whether you know how to scaffold learning through the interaction. And that doesn't just happen. It's really a setup that I'm going to talk about later, but a setup that you have to be able to understand and mold. So scaffolding through peers means that you set up the structure so that students can think more deeply than they would alone. And I want you to think about it like a bridge. You're creating the supports that let students stretch into new learning without collapsing under confusion. Because sometimes that's what happens. They're confused. They don't really know what kinds of questions to ask. We sometimes have to move at such a pace that they get lost in the sauce. So what does this look like? Essentially, there are a framework that we set up that we help them to understand. And that frame or that setup, what I'm going to say essentially here is a process. And the first thing is that you give these students a role. One student explains, the other asks clarifying questions. Then they switch. Roles keep the cognitive load balanced. It's not random partnering, but it's really structured growth. Next, you give students tools. Tools like sentence stems, question frames, step cards. I love to use graphic organizers. These little anchors guide the conversation. I can't remember the publication, but there was one that gave you all of that. If I can recall it, I will place it in the notes. But without these tools, kids will talk, but that doesn't always mean that they're learning. With structure, this process can connect and help them to problem solve. That again, as I said before, is scaffolding. Then finally, you want to monitor and adjust. You want to listen. Listening during this phase is the key. You want to listen for misconceptions, and then you want to redirect as needed. Celebrate the moments when students correct each other or build on each other's ideas. That's really the magic in this particular skill. Peer interaction becomes a pathway for stronger understanding and helps us, as I'm going to talk about in a little bit, not to be overwhelmed, not to be lost, not to get to the point where we're frustrated. So as in our opening, I talked about the connection to TExES exams. And really the connection is guided by students' inner engagement. I'm going to focus it on a couple of exams, but especially PPR and EC 391. The correct answer typically, here's the test tip, is almost always the one that empowers the students to engage. in a structured peer learning rather than sitting passively. So if in your test questions talks about sitting passively, you already know they're incorrect. But these test writers, they're checking, as I said before, about your understanding of how to scaffold, but also how do you build independence in your classroom? How do you help them to gain confidence? And how you help them as students to take academic ownership. So again, those answers talk about cooperative learning, peer-mediated practice, structured partner talk. These are all, again, scaffolding moves, some of my faves. And they reflect modern classroom practices, along with the neuroscience that I just kind of skirted over earlier, for your students to begin to learn as a community. So all of these skills come in with this very valuable skill of peer tutoring. But I wanted to go just a little bit deeper for each one. I'm not going to cover EC 391. I'm going to save that for later this week, also because of time. But PPR, this is expressed deeply within PPR. As I mentioned before, cooperative learning, the social interactions, the promoting of student responsibilities, that's all PPR 160. It's lined up for you. And in the three main domains that are listed here on your screen, it helps with, designing your lessons with interactive opportunities, building community and collaboration, as I alluded to earlier, and then using strategies that promote student ownership. You see questions like that. Well, possibly a question like this: which strategy increases student engagement and supports accountability and allows learners to explain their reasoning? The light bulb should go completely off, because peer tutoring is often the correct move. And it's the correct move because it increases mastery through explanation. And STR connection, we're setting up opportunities for our students to talk about structured literacy. It's where peer tutoring really shines, in my opinion. You can assign them different reading tasks or opportunities, such as partner reading. Partner reads are great for fluency. Echo reading routines, vocabulary mapping, not alone, but in pairs, decoding text pictures, and then immediate corrective feedback formulas, so that students know what to expect and to understand how to strengthen their decoding and comprehension. That's where this strategy stands up and delivers. Pairing a student reader with a developing reader is not about imbalance. It's about practice with purpose. You maintain the structure, your routines, and your clear roles for your students. And again, I kind of will go back to what it is and what it's not. Be careful how you set this up, and we'll talk more about the intentiveness of setting it up. And then lastly, very simplistically, for SPED 186, peer tutoring supports inclusive classrooms. It emphasizes access, adaptation, meaningful engagement with your students. And a test tip here is that peer tutoring is the correct answer. Anytime they're talking about a goal of engagement, if it's offered in your multiple choices, it's probably the winner. If they're talking about social modeling and increasing students' independence. As I stated before, this week I'll be covering a little bit deeper dive in some social media posts about SPED 186 and the core exam EC 391. But let's get into the meat of this lesson, the reason why I really want to talk to you about this. Because if you don't know how to set up this, it's not going to be a successful skill for you. It's not something that can be done in one setting you're going to have to teach the roles. And when you are teaching these roles, you are explaining the steps, modeling it, giving prompts, and encouraging them along the way. That's the tutor role. When you're expressing the learner role, it's a think aloud, it's a try and ask, a reflect. But you must spend time teaching the role. I won't give you a time frame because every classroom is different, but for purposes of getting the understanding, I would spend probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks talking to them and modeling it constantly. It's not something that you have to spend an hour on. It's little chunks throughout your day that you would show and express it and give them opportunities to work inside of it as you teach each part to them. And then secondly is the use of structure, task. So I want to give sentence stems, task cards, the graphic organizer I talked about, and I want to give clear steps. As an elementary educator, I often gave clear picture cards as well so that they would know what to do and what their role is and give them the responsibility factor, what it is that they're supposed to be doing so that they can stay on task. And then, of course, rotating those roles. This builds equity and confidence. It helps students, as I said before earlier in the what it's not for just the kids that are of a higher academic practice to only be in that role. We need to make certain that we're making good grouping options as well. Then monitor, not micromanage. Your job really is to circulate. You're listening for accuracy. You're doing at this time informal observations of how the groups are working so that you can make adjustments. I also would say assessments are micro assessments. After they're done, you want to have them do something to make sure that they have gained the knowledge that you're looking for, that the goal and the objective is actually covered. Something like a quick write, an exit slip, a partner scorecard sometimes helps as well. But really, what does this do for you and for your classroom and for your students? It really sets us up properly. If we implement this in our various subjects that I'm going to give you some examples of, it helps our students to gain ownership and it helps you not to be burnt out. So a few of the scenario examples that I wanted to give tonight just talks about the various subjects and how you could use it. In reading, I could pair them up for reading of a short paragraph and then they annotate it together in 2 colors. With math, one partner could solve the problem while the other one explains each of the steps. In science, I see this a lot, partnering to build their predictions and then compare the evidence that was found. In social studies, partnering can turn into summarization of the text after each paragraph. One is summarizing the other, and then they have a conversation about whether or not that they met and understood the material. And then SPED and inclusion. This is a peer model approach with behavior expectations before a lab or a group work. You are the designer of this. You're the expert in your classroom. It helps you to demonstrate equity, strategy, and empowerment, and to also help students for you to step back and also to be the guide versus being the all in all in the classroom. As I said before, that helps with teacher burnout because we have all kinds of things weighing on our shoulders. I'm not too far removed to remember what that felt like. And I'm hoping that the simplistic examples that I give week after week help you to give you the guidance that you need in order to go forward. As always, I'm thankful that you're here, but I also wanted to make sure that I remember to share with you that we have a free download available. It's on our website at ttinnovate.com. For those that are preparing for your state exam, it is a guide entitled Fear to Focus. because the year can get a hold of us. It can take our attention away. But this guide is going to help you to get back on track with a study plan and to help you to get essentially to get toward your goal. Now, I know that it's mid-December, and this is my way as a company leader to help you to remain focused on your task, even if your focus is not going to be done in 2025, but to build the momentum that you need to excel and to aspire to do so in 2026. We have some other programs that I mentioned throughout the week that are coming up for 2026. Our program that we have now is called Empower to Pass. And I'll share some information in the notes if you're interested in it. But I also wanted to speak to my campus leaders because we provide campus support as well. You can email us or a phone call. But again, we come here week to week to give you information about how to attack this test, but also how to better your teaching. So for my administrators who watch these videos, we offer professional development to support your campus, the instruction in your classroom, and classroom management. As always, I am thankful for you being present and watching this video. I'm still reaching my goal, desiring to reach my goal of 100 subscribers before the end of the year and to continue to carry on. I'm grateful for one watch because I believe that each one reach one. So as I hand out information that I've amassed over my 25 plus years of instruction, I'm grateful to be able to help to tweak your ideas, to help you to know how to instruct in your classroom and how to move forward, period, in this passionate profession that I so love. So again, thank you for your time tonight. If this helped you in any way possible, drop me a comment about peer tutoring or about what it is that has inspired you to land here. If you're preparing for PPR 160, STR 293, EC 391, or SPED 186, we're here to help you. So join our mailing list as we continue to empower our community to know that these small wins build momentum. I am just glad that you have made it to our channel. And we offer weekly assistance, weekly short professional development is what I call it, every Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We do also provide some support for your CPE hours. We are a company that has the ability to do so through TExES Education Agency. And I will drop some information there as well. All right. I could talk to you all night because I just love what I do. And I love helping and supporting you. So have a good evening, and I'll see you soon.